So the Confederate monument in the middle of town is one of those, I think it says, I may be wrong on this, I've got pictures some in my files, but it was erected in 1907. It was, which was typical of those monuments that were put in place in the early 20th century, largely through the efforts of the Daughters of the Confederacy, an organization that got its start, ironically, in Nashville, same place that the 19th Amendment was finally ratified. Anyway, so it's really a monument, as some of our history faculty people, one in particular here at the university, have discovered through old speeches at the time of the dedication and so forth. They discovered that the monument was erected really not as a monument, as many have asserted, to the Civil War veterans, the local residents who fought, of course, for primarily the Confederacy, this being a Confederate state, but rather a monument to the Southern resistance to the victory of the North, especially in the form of the Jim Crow laws, the resistance to Reconstruction, the assertion of white supremacy. It's one of those monuments they're not all identical around the country by any means, but this is one of those that seems to me to be the most egregious in that it not only has the Confederate battle flag, the second flag of the Confederacy on it, but it also has phrasing on it on the four sides, like, this is in memory of our heroes who fought for a just and holy cause. I know those exact words are on it. And of course, we know from all the historical records that cause was the preservation of slavery. It was the preservation of the Southern, even if you accept the argument that it was states' rights, it was the state's right to preserve its way of life and its economic system that was based on, by their own words in the Articles of Secession, Mississippi Articles of Secession, was based on the institution of slavery. And so then it on the other sides, it has similar kind of language that's all laudatory about how these people fought to preserve the Southern way of life. So anyway, move forward. It sits on a sort of a promontory, if you will. I don't know if that's the right word, but anyway, it juts out into the parking spaces around the center of the city square. And of course, the city, the outside of the square with the stores and so forth, that's city property. That's under the jurisdiction of the city. But the courthouse, county courthouse, sitting in the middle of the square, is on land which is considered county property legally. There's some dispute as to whether the statue, the monument, I don't like that term statue, but anyway, the monument, there's some dispute as to whether or not that is on city or county property. That's significant because the city government, by most speculation, would be friendlier to relocating the monument. But it's on, most people I think I accept that it's on county property and therefore subject to the exclusive jurisdiction of the County Board of Supervisors to decide what, if anything, might happen to it. The supervisors agreed to some months ago, a couple months ago, maybe more now, agreed to calls to have a hearing on the matter. Well, actually, they were asked many times to simply vote to move it to other county property or whatever. They went so far as to agree to have a hearing. That hearing was not much of a hearing. I couldn't be present, but I've read all about it. I know what happened. They allowed only 30 minutes per side, if you will, those who wanted it moved and those who didn't. And they heard from, I think, 3 to 5 witnesses, persons on each side. Of course, each one of those couldn't say much of anything, but on the side that didn't want it to be moved were the usual suspects, in my view. The people who have been all along advocating the Sons of the Confederate Veterans point of view, you know, and the idea that this is really just a monument to our veterans and so forth. Okay, so then that was only an hour-long hearing. Then about 2 weeks later, I guess, a week or 2 weeks later, the supervisors said that, well, they weren't going to take this matter up at their next meeting. And then, to the great chagrin of people who want it moved, during that meeting, where they said they weren't going to take it up, the question of the monument, they did take it up. Apparently, by law here, they didn't have to give advance public notice that they were going to take it up. They brought it up for a vote. They voted unanimously, which was surprising to some people, because at least 3, maybe it's 4 of those 5 members of the Board of Supervisors are nominally Democrats. Okay, so and they had Democratic support when they ran, one or 2 in particular, and even the chair of the County Board of Supervisors is nominally a Democrat. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they want to move all the Confederate monuments, but the feeling was there was a chance. Well, they took this vote. It was unanimous, 5-0. And among the reasons each one of them cited in turn were, you know, this is really just a monument to our veterans, which I don't think it is. I think it could be, but it isn't in its present form. And so forth. I think, and I'm speculating here because while I have wanted to have a personal conversation with my own supervisor, who I've met, I mean, I know who he is, I just haven't gotten around to doing that. And so I'm speculating here that I think the supervisors just don't want to provoke the wrath of the very strong faction that's still here in the county that just want to leave it alone. Oh, I should hasten to add, among the more inflammatory things that the supervisors were quoted as saying to a person is that they said that they had heard from some of their Black constituents, African-American constituents, and none of them wanted the statue moved. None of them were concerned about it. Of course, that, as you can imagine, provoked a firestorm of reaction. And, there were many, 15, 18, something like that, Black clergymen and others who organized further public events, making the point that that wasn't true, that, African Americans in general do not like it, having the monument there, and they want it moved. And so since that point, though, the issue's been pretty quiet. It's not going to go away. I mean, I can say that with some certainty. That issue is not going to go away. Now, what are the supervisors going to do? I don't know. I can't tell you. I think they need to do something. They need to do something because the issue isn't going to go away, and it's a wound. It's an open. I hate to use that cliche, festering wound, but it is, and it's a problem here in our community.